Hello, everybody, and welcome to tonight's edition of Beyond the Ordinary Show, and welcome to my virtual office. I was just sharing with Shelley that I was in between one city and the next and driving. We hit traffic and all these different things came up, and I always knew that I was going to show up right on time. And if that meant that I had to do the call out of the car, I did it out of the car. And how wonderful that we get to have this flow, and what happens when we're in that state of flow and get out of the need to control, whether it's a circumstance, our income, or a relationship. Our life is progressing. How wonderful. And so I mentioned this because our talk today and what Shelley is sharing is going to go deep into something of a conversation that may be triggering, but also very enlightening. Maybe illuminate somewhere where we have felt stuck or we've been repeating something for ourselves and we didn't quite know what it was. Or maybe we've insisted holding that pattern for safety or control's reason. And so we're going to do this navigation into a state of flow. And Shelley's also going to share, and I'm hoping that we have the opportunity, I think we will, a process that she shares is probably the most profound process she's found in over 15 years. So y'all are going to want to hang out for that. And again, I just trust this is going to be an amazing call today and hope that you guys can sit back, relax, and enjoy what comes through today. And we'll try to get into some Q&A as well. So if you want to ask your question, raise your hand and we'll go through as many questions. If you're not familiar with Shelley, let me tell you a little bit more about her. So Shelley Young is the owner of Trinity Esoterics, where she's worked as a hypnotherapist, teacher, writer, spiritual advisor, speaker, and internationally recognized channel of Archangel Gabriel for the past 17 years. She's also a dear friend and someone who I just consider such a deep soul connection and a sister. She's originally from Ontario, Canada. She's now based in Southwest Florida, where she remains dedicated to raising spiritual awareness in the most straightforward and simple ways possible to help people embrace their own empowerment. And the topic today, y'all, is evolving beyond codependency. And Shelley, with that, welcome to tonight's call. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me. And it is the 17th anniversary of Trinity today, and I can't think of a better way of celebrating it.
Amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow. An 8-year for Trinity Esoterics. That's huge.
Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier. So if only I could have seen a little glimpse of today when I was first opening my little shop, it would have really soothed me to know that I wasn't crazy. But, it was that huge leap of faith and really being guided through the dark night of the soul to create something new. And here we are today. So doesn't that make it all worth it?
Oh, it sure does. And well, congratulations and blessings. And we're so blessed celebrating this with you. So thank you.
Thank you.
And so Shelley, this conversation today, it doesn't sound very spiritual. And of course, but evolving beyond codependency. But why is it coming up so strongly?
I think for multiple reasons. I think that the pandemic was just such a springboard for so much growth and expansion for in so many ways. And one of the things that it really highlighted, I think, was our relationships with others, whether it was from losing somebody or from being trapped in a house with a partner that maybe you didn't have to spend a lot of time with before, or maybe just having to sit with ourselves and reevaluate. And I think more than that, all of the division that we have been experiencing, I've never seen so much division. And I think that the division is leading us to a low point that's going to be a springboard towards greater connection. But I think what's happening is our relationships are ready to evolve. And that means creating new ways of interrelating with each other in ways that are empowering for everyone involved, because that's really what we're here. We're in the throes of our empowerment process. And we can't do that if we're still holding the old patterning of the very disempowering codependency that a lot of us have been raised in. And it is a very spiritual topic, I think, because I think that empaths as a large group are very prone to codependency. So
I agree with you. And this is really in alignment where I've seen even the platform on BTO I've had thoughts about it and wonder, am I leaving the spiritual? Am I going more personal development? Because it seems that way. But really, my awareness, and it's so strong, is that we're bridging the gap between personal development and spirituality. And that's really the next phase that we're in.
Yes, I agree with that. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, what's your insights? First, let's get into codependency. And I know that y'all have an understanding of what it is, but Sheila, I'd like to hear from your perspective so we can give context to where the conversation is going.
Yeah. Well, if you look it up online, with kind of Wikipedia says that it's imbalanced relationships where one person enables another person's addictions, poor mental health, immaturity, irresponsibility, or underachievement.
Mhm.
I think it is very well described by just simply being more invested in another person's wellness than you are in your own, and then that they are in their own. And so, and this is, I think, why empaths get so involved in this, because we're sensitive and we feel energy. And sometimes we're so overwhelmed with our own energies and what we're already feeling that we can't handle feeling somebody else's emotions. So we want to fix, we want to heal, or we're here on a service contract and we try and jump into that service contract in our personal relationships rather in the way that might be appropriate that our soul has in line with us to do it in a far better balanced way.
Right.
Yeah, we try and jump into our service before we kind of have the balance and the training to do it.
And that's really interesting because we're being codependent even in a relationship with another. But a lot of people that I see that want to give something to the world, that want to be of service, that are inspired to help others, it's like we really have to check where that's coming from. And I find when people are really saying that, I'm like, well, hold on a second. Are you realizing that you're doing this for you first? But no, I need to serve others. But no, do you really realize that the whole reason that you're really doing this is for you? And it's a pause moment for people. It's some people get it, and other people's like they're like staring at a blank space because it's so foreign to them. How can we become aware that perhaps we're in this flow of codependency and we're not even aware of it? Again, trying to be of service, trying to love someone so that they can love themselves, like all these different ways that we do it.
Well, I think we get overwhelmed and I think we get really tired. So
Mhm.
I think that, you know, we can be really good at spinning a lot of plates in the air, but eventually we hit that wall. And I think that if we're really being self-aware, we'll recognize that there's no time for ourselves, or we're so exhausted that we're getting lost in the shuffle of our own lives because it's about everybody else. So, you'll create the crisis to get your attention for sure. Most of it is a pattern of give, 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 feeling very unappreciated, getting burnt out, and withdrawing, and then rinse and repeat, where we're doing that over and over and over again. And that's usually patterning that we've had from our childhoods. um, and I think, like I say, a major component of it is we don't know how to be in our energy comfortably. And we don't know how to hold the space for others where they can figure out for themselves, how to do things for themselves. So while our hearts are in the right place, unfortunately, codependency is always doomed to fail because we can't make anyone better or love anyone better. I mean, gosh, if we could, everybody would be perfect, right? It's an inside job. Our empowerment, our enlightenment is an inside job. And if we sell ourselves to someone else that I can make you better, we can't. We'll fail. They'll resent us for not being able to do it.
Yeah.
And ultimately, the relationship will fail. If we are constantly propping somebody up and disempowering them, they will have to reject us at some point in order to grow and move into their own authentic power.
Well, what also happens empathically, and I see this over and over again, and I've certainly experienced this personally, where as a giver, you give, and then you have to go back and recover because you start getting drained. Then the other person feels like you're with like you're not showing up in the way that you promised. Hold on a
Yeah,
second.
yeah,
And there's resentment because now you're not you're not the consistency that they're used to, and they start feeling betrayed, like you did something wrong because you have to go back in and regain your energy. And so it creates this dynamic that can be really confusing to both parties.
Oh, absolutely. And you will also become very resentful of the other person because you've trained them to take and take and take. And you'll be like, I'm exhausted. Why aren't you giving back? Or we'll be so angry at ourselves for not being able to say no or step out of it that we resent the other person, thinking they should figure it out or they should want to do for us. But we've kind of trained them not to do that.
Mhm.
So
Is there,
it's a slippery slope for sure. It's not going to get you where you want to go with your
have,
relationships.
have you had conversations with this and awarenesses or channels from Archangel Gabriel in regard to this dynamic?
Absolutely, I have. In fact, the special package for the first time ever, I did something really different this time in that I included 25 channeled messages from Gabriel about that content.
Oh,
So,
wow.
so people can kind of print it out and refer back to it. I've never done that before, and it just kind of came in through a friend that it would be a really great idea. And it was brilliant because I thought, oh yeah, we just want that quick little cheat sheet to remind us of what we know as we're trying to make changes.
Amazing. So as we get into the codependency, and there's, again, you alluded to it a little bit in the beginning. What's the difference between being empathic and codependent? And I would actually do between empathic, compassionate, and codependent.
Yeah, yeah. Well, being empathic means that you can feel what other or empathize with what other people are going through. When you're codependent, you're trying to take it on as your own. So when we can be compassionate and sit with another person and really feel what they're going through, and we can really encourage them, but we don't take it on. We don't try and get in there and fix, because fixing is disempowering. And this is not to say that if somebody's in true crisis that we don't reach out and help. Absolutely, we always do. I mean, that's just being humane. However, we're only doing it to the point where they can stand up on their own again. It's always geared towards empowering everyone involved instead of this constant, give, and they're not learning, or expanding or growing or having the joy of discovering their own divine capability.
Mhm. So what I found during this time of having to really go more within ourselves, because again, we've been sequestered in particular spots and not having the freedom to move, is that because we do have the capacity to feel more and feel more within ourselves, those things perhaps have been highlighted in ways where we weren't paying attention to before. And even if you don't notice it as codependency, any anxiety that's been arising, irritation, fear of the unknown, it's all because this dynamic that is unwinding and unraveling from the field, because we all are evolving emotionally, physically, and mentally as
Yes.
humans, all
Yeah.
of us. And this time of transition is really part of that evolution that's happening for all of us. That those tentacles of codependency are really presenting themselves because the time has come for that dynamic to mature as well in all of us.
Well, further than that, I think that part of our greatest service is learning how to receive.
Thank
And
you.
that's a mind bender, right? Wait a minute, me learning how to receive is actually being of service, but it is because it's allowing others to step up and discover the joy of serving. And so it's so much more than just our personal journey. It's almost moving beyond that martyred service paradigm into a joyful, supported service paradigm, so we can start to experience healthier interconnectedness, where if everyone's doing a little bit by following their own heart and their own soul's trajectory, the load isn't heavy on anyone anymore. And I think that enlightening human beings, light workers, those of service, are very exhausted because we've been doing a lot of the heavy lifting.
It's that also points to where everything's coming into balance, and it has to be for it to flow organically. So wherever we're creating scarcity
Mhm.
unknowingly, unwittingly. creating scarcity by being the one that's always providing, needing to fix, needing to control outcomes for our own sake. We think
Yeah,
we're doing it for other people, but we're doing it for our own sake because it's not comfortable.
that's right.
And
Yeah.
having the awareness of that and the intentionality is like, ooh, hold on a second. What am I doing and why? Where am I trying to manipulate an outcome when I think other people are being manipulative? It's like,
Well,
let me check myself. Yeah,
you can't be in flow. You can't be in surrender and flow and control and manipulate at the same time. You can't micromanage the flow, unfortunately. So, I mean, there's so many different layers of it, and we're so ready for it. You know, I think it's also about coming into a healthier balance with spirit, even. I
mhm,
think we went from, believing in this God that we were dependent upon that was going to judge us, from our beginnings with a lot of us with Christianity. And then recognizing, oh, wait, I'm sovereign. So I'm going to be all the way over here and I don't need anybody's help, you know? And I think that what we're really trying to do is find a new balance point where we are recognizing ourselves as sovereign and human and part of a greater whole, where I like to think of it like a relay race where I'm going to do as much as I can on my side of the veil, and then I'm going to pass the baton when I don't know anymore, and that's when I'm going to flow and be in my faith and trust into the new discoveries, which is really how we're discovering what's possible in the new earth. So
mhm.
it's not just one relationship, it's the relationship with ourselves, it's the relationship with others, it's our relationship with our higher power, it's all of it.
It's all interconnected. It's so wonderful. Getting back to your point of receiving, learning to receive. A couple of years ago, a few years ago, I went through this stage and I called it my Kali stage, where I heard at the beginning of the year, this is your Kali year, where things were just going to burn, things were going to be destroyed that no longer served. And I understand the initiation of the Kali energy, that fire energy that destroys for the sake of creating new fertile ground. Um, and so I prepared myself for that year. And sure enough, that what came through that year was amazing and it was so on point. The following year, I heard this is your year of receiving. It's like, oh my God, amazing. Finally, yes, all this work that I've been doing and all these different flows that I've been in to get me up to you're receiving amazing. And it was probably one of my hardest years. It was probably harder than the Kali year because learning to receive, to open up, to not control, to a flow that was really expanding, regardless of what I did, to try to hold it back, to try to hold back that tidal wave. Um, it was tough on my mind and on my body to
Yeah.
open up to that much receiving and not be the one that was trying to control the outcome, to allow myself to give someone else the opportunity to give to me. And I,
Well, yeah, overgiving can be a trauma response. Um, Almost all empaths I've ever met have come from some kind of an abusive background, or not, not all of them, of course, but the vast majority have.
I certainly
And
did.
for
Yeah.
a lot of us, receiving was not safe. We almost created safety and security for ourselves by overgiving, by not asking for anything. It was almost like a survival technique. So it can make you feel really raw and really vulnerable to open up yourself to the idea of receiving, because on some level you think that you're going to be rejected for it or you're not going to be loved for it. But unfortunately, that keeps us out of the experience of unconditional love.
Yeah.
We're not willing to show up and receive.
Well, and it wasn't safe, or we set the parameters and it served us up to a certain point. Well, not
Yes,
that there's any mistakes in it and how wonderful, but we've come to a point of evolving it and not being in the repeated pattern. And that's what is happening so strongly now with all of these different stimulations that are coming about that are prompting us to maturing again, energetically, spiritually, mindfully, and in our physicality.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's such a fascinating time for me because, I know so many sources say the same thing. In a way, it's wonderful that so many of us are on the same page
Yeah.
in that 2020 was really about becoming aware of, what we needed to let go. It really was kind of that interlife or the life review as we were wrapping up that first phase of our incarnation. And I think that we're really in the throes of it in the beginning stages of 2021 because we can't bring it with us. So everything that we've been dragging our feet on not tackling, we have to do it now.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you say that because the theme for this year that I heard, and I seem to hear, like for the last 7 years, I hear themes, the themes for the year. And last year's the theme of not knowing.
Yes.
And oh, of course. And it spoke to me in that way. This year I heard clean slate. It's like, it's in the beginning of the year, clean slate, clean slate,
Well,
clean
that
slate.
gives me
It's so
bumps.
strong. Yeah, it's me too. I just got them also. And that's what's happening. We can't take those things forward that way. It's a clean slate. We're building
Yeah.
from a new whiteboard, if you will,
Yeah.
or a new platform, whatever it is. So it's amazing what's happening through. And I love that we're getting similar messages in the way that you express it just helps to land what some of y'all may already know intrinsically, but the words weren't there or the reminders or stimulating. It's like, yes. And that provides us like these places, these stepping stones, like, oh, I can step here. It's like, of course, that makes sense. And that's why I love having these calls because we're acclimating and we're graduating little by little in these micro adjustments and sometimes huge adjustments are going to put us in a place that we've never been before, but so empowered to be in it. So I love what you're sharing and what you're talking about right now, Shelley. Um, I want to talk about the process that you mentioned earlier, that in 15 years, nothing quite so powerful has emerged for you. Tell us more about that and why you're so excited. And I'd love it if we can get into it.
Oh, yeah, I would love that. So I'm going to have to talk about myself a little bit here.
Awesome.
Um, so I had somebody who was very abusive in my life, who I had never in my entire 56 years on this planet not felt their negative focus in my energy field from the time I was born. And although I could choose as an adult to keep that person, very, very far away, I could always feel that energy. And I mean, over the years, just like everybody else, I've done all the things. I've cut the cords. I've done, I've explored this relationship. And yet I always felt this very almost malevolent focus.
Mhm.
And so I was tackling some of my own personal trauma work with a healer friend, and the angels actually walked me through this amazing process. And so when I was done for the first time in my entire life, I could no longer feel their energy.
Wow.
And the angels showed me how I could do this in a way that makes it very open for people to come in and connect with us if they can meet with us from a space of love.
Mm.
And if they can't do that, they're just gonna, their focus will be taken off of us and they'll just gently bounce away. And
Mm.
one of the things that happen is normally I have to have contact with this person every Christmas. And it's always something that I struggle with because I always grappled with it every single year, thinking, well, I would wish anybody a Merry Christmas. It's just a text. And the other part of me was like, no, this person isn't healthy for you. Why would you want to do that? But I would usually just do it for the sake of peace. And this year on Christmas, I thought to myself, oh gosh, I got to get around. I got to remember to make that text. And I forgot. And he
Mm.
never bothered texting me either, first time ever. So what that taught me was not only was this so effective, but there was just no energetic connection anymore to even have to do that. And it was
Amazing.
so incredibly freeing, but yet the door is always open for him if he can show up from a space of love. And I think that a big part of why codependency is such a major thing is we don't know how to manage our own energetics. So we can just hold the space so we can be with people so that we can step in if we need to, we can step back without it being overwhelming energetically.
Mm.
And this will allow people to do just that.
Oh my God. Can we get into it?
Yeah, let's do this. Let's do this. So I'll just do a quick little meditation. So if everybody can just get in a nice comfy position, and if you can just go ahead and you can close your eyes and take a nice deep breath in and exhale. And another nice deep breath in. And exhale. We're going to call the angels in to assist us with this. And you might feel tingling on the top of your head as they make their presence known to you. And that's going to spread relaxation right down your head, right over your face, down the back of your neck, over your shoulders, right down your abdomen, your arms, right down your back. You might even smell a minty or mentholated sensation up your nose. That's very common when angels are near, or an expansion in your heart center. And just allow that relaxation to go all the way down your legs, right into your toes. I would like you to put your focus in your heart center. And you recognize that there is a beautiful luminosity in the center of your heart that is your soul's essence, the pure essence of you. And every breath that you take, that pearly white luminosity that is you expands and expands until eventually it is expanded arm's length in front of you, over top of your head, under your feet, behind you. So you are in this beautiful, milky white, pearly, luminescent bubble. And what I would like for you to do is imagine anyone that you have found to be challenging in your life. And you can simply ask the angels to place them in their own pearly white bubble. We ask the angels to do this. We know it's done with the greatest love and appropriateness. And we see the people in their own pearly white bubbles, which is their own essence of their soul, which can only be good for them. And you will notice that if this person tries to swipe the edge of their pearly white bubble, much like you would a foggy window, to try and look at you with anything less than the eyes of love, it will immediately fog over, and they simply will not be able to see you at all. And you can imagine that their bubble just gently bounces away from you, taking them in a different direction. But you know, because you are in a heart-centered space, that whoever looks at you with the eyes of love and can meet you in that safe, energetic space, they will be welcome right into your VIP area. And that is exactly how you can experience healthy interconnectedness. Now, usually, all that is required is one time for this. But if you feel like it needs reinforcing, you can absolutely do that. If you are feeling overwhelmed by the energy of the collective, you can absolutely imagine everyone in their own bubbles. And this is a beautiful energetic clarity technique, because in no way is it practicing separation. It is inclusion with intention. And whenever you are ready, you can simply count yourself out from 1 to 5 and come back into your awareness.
Oh, so beautiful, Shelley. Thank you for that. Oh, I can feel that. As y'all come back, just to remind you, we'll have this on the replay. You'll be able to come back and listen again and not worry about trying to remembering, but really being in the flow, and invite different people in perhaps and see what comes up, and how that flows for you. So that's wonderful. Shelley, I would love to get into Q&A with the audience.
Sure.
So if we can open up to that, that would be wonderful. We'll get into Shelley's special offer in a little bit, and it's going to be fantastic. I'm so excited about this, but I want to get into taking life's calls. So if you have a personal question, raise your hand, and I'm going to start promoting some of you to panelists. So that's going to take me just a second here, Shelley.
Okay.
Shelley, when you did this, what shifted in your awareness, like the way that you were carrying your energy with other people, even?
You know, as a parent, there's probably nobody whose energy I can feel more than my daughters.
Mm.
And I myself am a recovering codependent and an overgiver. So, you know, if she messages me now and she's kind of in drama or in stress, rather than immediately needing to fix it, I'm able to just kind of stay in my own energy and
Mm.
allow her to be where she is. And why I think this is so incredibly amazing is once you have this, you can actually become a holder of space for people because you're not being thrown off balance anymore.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
And your defense mechanisms start to settle in. You start realizing how empowered you are, and there's a different energy and confidence that starts arising.
Oh, not only that, but because you're not being triggered by that other person's energy, because there's just no negative attachment points anymore, you actually can shift into a healing space and start to look at them rather from a triggered space, but rather from a more understanding space. And I know that I've had so many healing revelations about this person where now I just really have compassion for them. I could never have reached a compassion space before I used this technique, no matter how hard I tried.
And that's so important also, because as we learn that compassion, we get to be in the flow of the energies and the emotions and the compression that we experience. And when we set that free, when someone else is going through that type of compression or holding in, our capacity not just to empathize, but ability to be in authentic compassion, not trying to fix, but to hold the vibrational frequency to invite them to meet you in that intelligence, that awareness becomes profound. And that's when we really start affecting change for the world. When we start doing that within us, you become the change that you've been hoping to see all along.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, it's fascinating. Oh, I'm so glad you shared this process again. It'll be on the replay, y'all. And let's get into some Q&A. So first caller, Tutu, let's go to you. Welcome. If you can unmute yourself, please. And when I call on y'all, find where your unmute button is so that we can just get through calls a lot faster. Tutu, welcome.
Oh, thank you so much. I want to thank you both so much, from my spirit to yours. I've been following you both for so long, and you both mean so much to me and have really guided me to become the person that I am today. And so it's with great honor and joy that I get to chat with you both. And my question is about community, like on social media and in the world. Just if you have any ideas about how we can connect more. Well, I have this message of food forestry and of nature's infinite abundance that I've been spreading. And I've been doing it sort of very like a lone wolf solo thing, but I'm working on advertising this course and really becoming out there in the world with my name. So any thoughts on that?
Well, it feels to me like it's absolutely taking form for you. I feel like you're creating the beautiful foundation for this. I think that you're just a little bit ahead of your time. So maybe that's why you're not seeing it come together quite yet. But I think that from what Gabriel's been showing me, that's part of the excitement of the new energies that we're moving into, that we're finally moving into energies that are supporting us in the experience of that highest service that we've felt called to. So I think just keep being you, keep really staying very true to your own energetic knowingness, even if it doesn't make a bit of sense to anybody. Gosh, I'm living proof about that. 17 years ago, you're going to open up a business and you talk to who, you know, and but I stayed true. And I think it's very much the same for you. And I think it's going to really grow and evolve. So what I would suggest for you is just keep asking Spirit, show me the next steps, guide me, you know, keep moving in that surrender, faith, flow, trust model, which I'm sure you totally understand if you've been following the work for a long time, into the experience of this. But more than that, don't cap it. Allow it to take on its own consciousness, and allow it, like, don't try and control it or have it take on a really rigid structure, but rather ask it what it wants to become. Get into meditation. Imagine that it has its own consciousness, and ask it what it wants from you and where it wants to go and how it wants to express itself.
Thank you so much. This is beautiful and perfect. Oh, I received this wonderful gift. Thank you.
Beautiful.
Oh, you're so welcome.
And I have to tell you to find social media is an animal, and the numbers don't always add up on course. And it's not that they don't, but not always as people project it on social media, as I'm sure you're aware. And for you, I keep seeing, look for intimate connection with others, collaborations of others who may resonate with your work, who you feel at home with and speak your language. And that's going to provide that unity consciousness that you're not doing this alone. And that support is going to actually engender another flow of intelligence going through you, because you're not the only one holding it.
Oh, yeah.
Or you have your unique expression of it and your love, but there's other love that's amplifying your love as well.
Oh, that's so
Maybe
perfect.
further up.
Amazing. I am receiving another miracle. Thank you so much.
Beautiful. Blessings to you, and thank you for what you're doing in service to you. And I hope that you receive it in service to yourself as well.
Beautiful.
Thank you so much.
All right, Tutu.
Aloha.
Aloha. So wonderful. All right, let's go to our next caller. Courtney G, you're outside in the sun. I had to bring you in.
Hi, thank
Welcome.
you. So happy to be here. Codependence is a recurring issue in my life, and I was just wondering, as a highly sensitive person also, I feel myself really afraid of new connections these days. From
Hi, host. Want to talk to Archangel Gabriel.
I got her. Okay.
Thanks. So I don't really know the specific question. I just felt called to come here with you and see if there's anything that was coming through, because I have an open heart, and I just find myself really afraid of really close, intimate connections. You know, I could keep people at a distance, but I know the key is like really connecting. But
yeah, you know what you're experiencing is just so common. So I hope you know you're not alone in this. You didn't invent this. You know, what happens is when we've really struggled with codependency, we end up so exhausted that the idea of even connecting with someone else doesn't even feel like it can contribute to us. It just feels like, why would I want to do that? That's going to be more work. And so a lot of times it comes from a space of overwhelm that you haven't quite healed yet. So I would say that really showing up for yourself, really learning, you know, how to have good, healthy boundaries in a per case basis.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to let somebody right into your VIP area right away. You can get to know people and keep them kind of, you know, out until you really start to feel energetically whether that flow is there. So baby steps. It doesn't have to be all or nothing. There's various degrees in between. And I think what will happen as you nurture and care for yourself and move out of that overwhelm, you're going to kind of come out of the cave of, you know, that old 3D model into being ready for a higher vibrational relationship. because you'll already be holding, you know, that energy of self-love, self-satisfaction, embodiment. And that's where you're going to draw in the partner that actually adds to your life and makes your life easier and more wonderful.
Mm.
So I'd even ask you, do you even think that exists? Or do you still think that a partner is only going to be more work? And that might be a belief system that you can actually start to work on, to start, you ask yourself, is that really true? Wait, no, out of the millions of people, I'm sure there's a partner out there somewhere who can really add to my life. And as you start to make room for that to show up, then it can.
Mm. It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Courtney, I want to add something to this also, and I want to talk to you about this, Shelley, because I think it's so important. Another component that's coming in is empaths. We're evolving and we're embodying. Again, we're merging spirituality with personal development. Don't forget that this is big right now. We all are. We all are. There's a merging in it. And in that, it's asking us also to bring our critical thinking, not our mind, not the chaotic mind, but our critical thinking capacity online and merge it with our hearts. And so when an opportunity comes to merge with someone else, our impulse before us to make the decision, spontaneous, and we choose that decision based on, most of the time, a sympathetic response of fight or flight, or what am I going to get for it? And then we go with that. And the time, even COVID, it's time to slow down, time to pay attention, time to feel. And based on the true feelings after the initial reactions pass, and allow those to flow through us, attune through us. It's old fear, it's old excitement, it's I'm looking at dependency, or it's I really want that, whatever it was. Allow those immature feelings to flow through us first. And then we can decide, and we can ask our guidance, our inner self. We can bring in that critical thinking with our spiritual aspects in divine awareness. Is this good for me? Is this aligned? Is this something that I want? Is this something that I want for my future? And the conversation takes a different form instead of a pushback or an absolutely yes in codependency. And
I
so
think
when
it
we,
really, oh, sorry, go ahead, John, I'm sorry.
okay, I wanted to ask you about it. Please go ahead, Shelley.
Well, you know, I think that we can get really complex and complicated with all of these. How am I going to do it? I think a really beautiful new template to use is just including yourself in your own unconditional love.
Right.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
You know, if a relationship is making you not love yourself to love another, then it's just not a relationship that's going to be supported in the new energies, and it's not what's going to support you. So it can just be as simple as, wait a minute, am I including myself in my unconditional love, or is the advice that, or the tactic that I'm taking something that I would recommend for my best friend or my child? And if the answer is no, then don't do it. You know, we have this idea that it's either or, I got to love the person, or if I love myself, I'm being selfish. No, this is taking unconditional love and spreading it liberally everywhere. And I think that feels really good to people.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. Thank you so much for calling in. Yeah.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
Enjoy opening your heart. Enjoy being vulnerable. As much as maybe uncomfortable, enjoy the vulnerable. It's like, oh, I haven't felt this. Okay, I'm stretching. Oh, okay.
Hey, that's
into it, right?
That's why I'm raising my hand, and I appreciate the opportunities to be vulnerable, to like speak to strangers, and to like just do it.
Nice. Good
So
practice.
thank you.
Thank you, Sonia. Oh my God, I love how she lit up. Shelley, in the special offer and some of the channeling through Gabriel, and of course your awareness that you bring through, other transmissions that come through that relate to this?
You mean right now or just in general?
In the special offer that you're
Oh,
offering.
in the special offer, yeah, it's all stuff that Gabriel's been talking about me and my own healing journey. And often what happens is, you know, you're always the catalyst to me creating something new, always. And I'll have like a little germ of an idea, and then you always pop up, and then he'll start dropping in bits and pieces of that often show up as daily messages before the package even takes on form. But it's absolutely supported. It's got Gabriel all over it. So one thing that I would really love to bring up, if I can, is and this is probably not a popular view, but I'm gonna go there anyway because I'm feeling brave. You know, there's this whole empath narcissist dynamic. Oh my gosh, if you're an empath, you have to look out for the narcissist because they're the boogeyman's going to jump out and get you. And I don't agree with that.
I
I
don't agree with
think that narcissists are overtakers and we're overgivers, and it's actually the same thing. It's the same dynamic. It's
Yes.
just different polarities. You don't have to be afraid as an empath to feel, and you don't have to be afraid as an empath that you're going to fall for a narcissist, because if you are in a balanced space, they simply wouldn't be an energetic match to you.
It's a disempowering conversation. It's not true. And it's
It
part
is.
of an agenda that doesn't serve any of us as we're evolving and expanding in our
I
consciousness.
agree. I agree.
Yeah, no,
It
no.
keeps people in victim
Yeah.
consciousness and fear.
Well, I think it emanated from what seemed like a really intelligent conversation, but it wasn't necessarily true.
Ah, yeah, yeah.
Y'all feel into that for a second. And where have you been involved in intelligent conversations that don't really apply to you? But we've kind of taken it on because it seems smart. It seemed, oh, well, okay, that makes sense. There's talking in a really eloquent way and using great words. And I can relate to some of their stories. And well, yeah, let me take that on for a while.
Yeah.
Just because someone's having an experience in that dynamic that may have similar stories as yours doesn't mean that that has to be your story. It's one story, but there's 7 billion stories in this planet. It's like, what story do you want to create from it, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, amazing. This is so good, y'all. We're going to get into more questions in a second, but I want to go through the special offer because what Shelley's bringing through, and again, this dynamic of codependency and how it's evolving, it's so, and there's layers to it, guys. It's not the one, it's like I'm codependent or I'm not. There's layers to it in different ways. Even how we're codependent to our spirituality, how we're
Yeah.
codependent to being stuck in a particular place, how we're codependent to particular things that make us feel comfortable that we're really evolving past. So this is big. And again, for me, this is so exciting because again, it's where personal development is meeting spirituality. It's bridging that gap that's so necessary right now. We're gonna go through a special offer. We're gonna go into live Q&A afterwards also. So the link for the special offer is in the chat box. I think April has typed it in there already. She has. She's so awesome. Click on that. Again, click on the chat box, open up the link, or go to beyondtheordinaryshow.com/Shelley24. It'll take you to that same page. And Shelley, guide us through what everybody's going to receive by participating.
Okay. So, you know, I get that it feels like a big, scary mountain. You know, how am I going to get out of this? It can feel almost like it's too much. What I wanted to do with this package was I wanted to create, number one, some awareness for where you got where you are, but I also wanted to give you some action steps of how you can start to baby step your way out of the situations that you may be in a way that's not going to freak out everybody. You know, I'm not about ripping the rug out from underneath everybody. I'm trying to give you a lot of support to help you get into better balance, because it's really going to serve everybody involved. So with that in mind, class 1, we talk all about how on earth did we get here? How did we get in this place that we're in? And we're going to look at, you know, what codependency is, why we do it, you know, what happened to put us in this space. And the practical exercise will be the pearly white bubble meditation that we just did in a little bit of an expanded format. In class 2, we talk all about where do we begin? So creating that foundation for change. And of course, all great change starts from within. So within that, we're going to look at why we want to shift these relationships. We're going to address the overwhelm. We're going to talk about self-love, self-forgiveness, getting more comfortable with your sensitivities and getting real with yourselves. And then we do a meditation, and this is so important to integrate our wounded inner children and or soul fragments. And this is so important. This is big healing work that will be reflected outwardly in all of your relationships. In class 3, we talk about how to implement the change. So in this class, we explore healthy boundaries. Oh my gosh, so important. I've got this a great rule of thumb that will help you with that. action steps for dangerous situations, action steps for non-emergency situations. What if they leave or won't change? Getting real about our relationships, navigating future decisions, stepping back in the power of empowerment, being willing to receive and staying strong. And then we have a practical exercise, which is a meditation to update soul contracts and creating a communication area where we can actually connect and communicate with our loved ones in a healthy, safe space if they're not able to communicate with us or receive us in real life.
Oh, Shelley, I want to ask you about that, because updating soul contracts, what does that mean for relationships with people in our lives currently, relationships with people who have transitioned, and relations with people who we've transitioned the relationships in the past? What does that do?
It's just, there's no one size fits answer for that, because every relationship is kind of its own toss salad, if you will. But what this will do is within this meditation, it'll help you get the information of what soul contract is being completed, what is ready to be released, what can we create anew moving forward. So it's really in a per case basis. I'm sorry, I can't give you a one size fits all answer for that. So in class,
it definitely carries a dynamic effect.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And even just being able to speak to somebody through meditation, soul to soul, can create so much change in your relationships, because you're not being met with the resistance. You know, you can really be heard. You can get things off your chest. The more you communicate that way, the more you get confident in creating communication space with people in real life. So it's a really, really powerful thing. Gosh, I've had students that I've taught how to do this that had absentee parents that they hadn't talked to in 15 years. And within a couple of weeks, they called and the healing began. It's really powerful stuff.
Yeah. I wanted to emphasize that because I know how important and how powerful that can be. Amazing. Sorry to interrupt. Please continue.
Oh, no, that's fine. I'm glad that you asked, because other people were probably wondering. Class 4, it's all about holding the space. Now, this is the tricky part. Holding the space is the hardest thing, whether we're trying to manifest something or just kind of create a new life for ourselves or see change or healing or whatever. Holding the space is really the tricky part, but it's the most important part. So in this class, we talk about why holding the space is important. We talk about how to understand fear and doubt through a new perspective and how to not allow it to derail us. We talk about being tested and the importance of consistency, how to tell if someone has truly changed. So a lot of times when we start making changes in our old out of balance relationships, people will like make a lot of promises, but there's not a lot of action behind it. So I really go into how you can tell if somebody has truly changed, what to do if people get triggered, what to do if you get triggered, knowing when to step in, shifting your focus, and holding the space for yourself as well. And this practical exercise is a meditation to experience your own wisdom, your worthiness, so important, your progress, and how to shift onto new energetic layers. In class 5, it's all about what is possible now. So we're going to talk about what to expect moving forward with shifting timelines, sovereignty in the new earth. We talk about the divine combination, which is Gabriel's biggest thing. He loves to talk about the divine combination and what healthier interdependency looks like. And the practical meditation is to experience all of the elements of the divine combination and how they work together to shift you and the planet into unconditional love and unity consciousness, which is the basis of healthier interdependency and our highest expression of self.
So let me ask you, why is this so important to be aware of the shifting timelines?
Well, I think that it shows us what's possible. I mean, we want to see, you know, what's possible from detaching from the old and allowing us to surrender, faith flow, and trust our way into the creation of the new earth, because that's really what it is. It's an unfoldment. And for every shift that we make, new timelines become available to us if we're willing to step onto them. And I think that if we only knew what was truly possible for ourselves, we would stop selling ourselves so short. But we have this tendency because we can't see it. And I think that's been part of the gift of not knowing that 2020 was, because when we don't know anything, we start making our highest choice one right now moment at a time. But by doing that, that's actually how we step onto higher timelines.
Mm-hmm. And that's huge, because the awareness of the higher timelines also is that we're also learning how to ask bigger. We're learning how to ask bigger than we've been daring to ask before, by getting out of the old habits, releasing the codependency, releasing the need to control outcome. There's a creative manifestational capacity that we have a blank coloring book, and we can color in outside of lines that were contained in the old coloring book before. And a lot of things are possible that were not possible before. So the awareness of those timelines and our capacity to expand beyond anything that we've been in before is huge. And so again, I wanted to bring in this awareness of that for y'all, because a lot of y'all hear about timelines, shifting timelines, but what does that mean for you individually? I understand collectively of the shift, but again, what does it mean for you? It's amazing. I love that you're bringing that into the package.
Well, one of Gabriel's favorite lines that he says over and again is, let your life get as big and beautiful as it wants to be.
Oh, nice.
And we don't do that. We tend to create within what we think is possible, and what we think is possible and what is actually possible. There's a big difference between them. And so, sometimes we just have to hold it, and that's a big part of holding the space for ourselves too, right? To give it enough time to see what else is really possible that I have been holding myself separate from, with my inability to receive, or by being so focused on what people are doing over there that I'm not even creating for myself anymore.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. All right. So that's item 5.
Pardon?
That's item 5.
That's it. And then there also is the document that is the 25 messages from Archangel Gabriel that are all designed to support the information within the package that you can print out and refer back to whenever you want to, because we all have our wobble points. We all have the day where we're like, it's too hard or whatever. And when you can refer back to that, it will shift you back into remembering what you know and why you want to make the changes.
Oh, this is so wonderful. Everybody on the call, I really feel this powerfully in the special offer and the shift from codependency, and again, in different aspects. And for me, it's like one of those books that I read that just impacted me. I was highlighting everything in that book, and the information made so much of an impact that it actually shifted my way of thinking and being and acting. And I feel this as such an empowering tool, really, to that degree, because if we can embrace this with an open heart and a courageous mind, what's possible? What is possible? What are we untangling from and creating into? And so this is awesome, Shelley. And I'm so glad that you're having this conversation again, merging personal development, spirituality, and augmenting what's possible as human beings. Okay, we're spiritual beings and amazing. We can travel, we can meditate, we can talk to the angels, we can go out into the galaxy. Let's bring it home.
Absolutely.
Home.
That's the embodiment, right? That's the embodiment part.
Yeah, so cool. Again, the special offer, click on the chat box. The link's at the bottom of the chat box. It's $97, 2-payment option, a 30-day money-back guarantee. If you have any doubt, just get into it. Flow with it. And if it doesn't resonate for whatever reason, just send an email. No, I need a refund. That's all you need to say. It's super easy. I don't think you'll ask for it, because I really do feel that this is going to be very powerful. And again, I'll call Gabe's cheat sheet. Sounds amazing. It's like, I can't wait to check that out. Again, the link's in the chat box. You know how to get to it on the web browser. I hope you take advantage of it. And Shelley, with that, let's open up some more Q&A. Amazing. So let's go to Angela. Hello.
Hello. I'm so glad to be here tonight. Shelley, the last time you were on, I think I listened to the replay like 3 or 4 times. It was so moving. And I've actually have a little daily ritual now where I do the surrender, faith, trust, and flow. It's been very cool.
I love that.
So I think it's, awesome that we're talking about this tonight. I was in a very codependent marriage with someone who had behavioral health issues and addiction issues. I was able to get out of that after 19 years, 3 years ago, but I cannot disentangle him from my life. He digitally stalks me and just won't just let us go our separate ways. And I was wondering if there's any message or advice or insight. What I do now is I just don't pay any attention or respond to anything, but I didn't know if there was anything else I can do energetically around that.
Yeah, I mean, absolute, well, pearly white bubbles. Highly recommend, do the pearly white bubble. Yes, I mean, really withdrawing your energy as much as you can. And Gabriel gives this really good description of different energetic layers. And so he talks about a house. So if you imagine, a 3-story house where there's a basement, a main floor, and upstairs and an attic. The basement would be 3D, the main floor would be 4D, the upstairs would be 5D, the attic would be where the angels and masters are. So think about what the basement is like. It's kind of dark and dank, and they don't really get that there's upper floors, like they might have a little bit of awareness. You naturally reside on upstairs. That's where you naturally reside. He resides still in 3D, in that disempowerment realm. So if you're keeping an eye on what he's doing, you're literally running down into the basement where he can see you. So I think that, really, truly keeping yourself well, don't be tempted. Don't be tempted to see what he's up to. Surrender into a life that's healed and beyond this, where you can release him with love and wish him well. But it's almost like trust as you get into the surrender, faith, flow, trust model, that if it's your focus kind of drives your flow, your gratitude steers your flow. And so if you're constantly kind of looking back, even if it's in your rear view mirror, like what's he doing, what's he up to, then you're almost creating another attachment point. So if there is something that you need to address, it will come into your awareness. If you're in that surrender, faith, flow, trust model, you can deal with it and just move on. So you're so close. It's almost like you're just untethering yourself from the last vestiges of this.
It's hard, yes.
Yeah, and you're going to be off to the races. And God bless him for just being where he is. I mean, he just is where he is. So I'm so happy that you've come as far as what you have, because that takes a lot of courage and a lot of work. So kudos to you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Blessings. Thank you for calling in.
Yeah,
All right, let's continue here. Go to Joseph. Let's get you to unmute, please.
Hello.
Hi.
Yeah, my question is, what is my ego not seeing or not willing to see? And it's keeping it in the belief that it needs to keep control and not let in the soul or God.
Mm-hmm. The ego itself, I like to think of as a toddler that really doesn't like sudden change, likes to feel like it's in control. And so what happens a lot of the time is, if we're about to move into a big space of expansion, your ego self, that little toddler self, freaks out because it's afraid that it's not going to be in charge anymore, or it's going to get left behind, or it won't be important anymore. So rather than trying to wrestle it and try and resist it, which actually just kind of makes it even more uncomfortable and even more afraid it's going to be left behind, I would say understand that it's trying to control and keep you where you are through fear and doubt. So if you start feeling fear and doubt, it's actually a sign that you're onto something. Fear and doubt is really a sign of growth. So, and then what you do is, imagine that you're connecting with that ego self and let it know, hey, you are a necessary part of my operating system as a human being. I love you. You're important. You're going to come with us. You can even give it a job. Sometimes the ego likes to have a job. Say, like, we're just going to do this as an experiment. You can let me know how it goes. So it feels important. And now all of a sudden, you've got all the parts of you cooperating and moving forward into the expansion that your soul's trying to call you to.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I would suggest.
Okay, well, I have been doing that, and it hasn't, let's say, fully worked yet.
Okay. So how do you feel like, can you tell me when you get triggered, like what's happening when you most experience it as not having worked?
Well, I try to connect and get messages from my guides, and a lot of times, a day or two later, I'll get another message from the ego saying, it was the one giving the message and I never really allowed you to connect.
Oh, okay. Well, that's real easy to tell the difference of, because when you connect with spirit and get a message from a higher being, you'll get heart activation. So feeling your heart expand, anything from the heart center up is an indicator that you've received a message from a higher being. So it might be heart expansion. You might get tingles on the head, ringing in the ears. You know, often it'll come in as an inspiration from above and slightly to the left. Your ego can't fake that for you.
Yeah.
So, you know, your inner wise one always knows the difference. So if your ego is trying to say that that message wasn't valid and the message was empowering to you, it was positive, it wasn't telling you what to do, it was leading you towards your own mastery, you can just simply say to the ego self, well, that might be what you think, but we're still going to go in this direction because you are the shepherd of all of this.
Right.
Joseph, something that I'd suggest also very strongly is to really figure out where you're asking the question from. What is your expectation of it? So if you're asking from the mind and hope to receive something for the mind's sake, it's going to end there and it's going to create doubt. And if there's a surrender of innocence and being okay with not knowing, not hearing, not having an expectation that it's going to be answered, but in the play of it, there's going to be a flow that comes through that the ego can't deny. It's like, oh, it's like, you'll just know it, but it comes from that very powerful but very innocent place in the asking. If you're trying, I'm trying to connect with my guides, I'm doing this, I'm doing all the right things. If you're creating structure for your connection in that way, come in and try to control the structure in assisting you to receive accurate information, but there's gonna be doubts. So play with it, surrender to it, and be okay not receiving an answer, and be okay with the ego coming in and saying what it wants to say. But you'll know, you will feel the truth without any doubt whatsoever, and that'll supersede any other energetics that may be coming in that may seem sabotaging. But you'll come to know it like you know the narcissist, like you know the empath. You'll just come to know it, and you'll be aware of the relationship dynamic and how you relate to it in the flow that you're walking in your life.
Right. Well, it's been a long struggle because it all started with the loss of eyesight. And that may have been the tool that the universe was using to get me to be aware of all of this. And
Oftentimes when people lose their sight, be it psychic sight or physical eyesight, it's actually to enhance your feeling capabilities. So it allows other gifts to come on strong. And a lot of the times, once those other gifts come on strong, sometimes the sight will come back or
right.
improve. So, you know, that there's kind of a purpose to that. Unfortunately, I know it seems hard to believe that we would choose that, but often there's a greater purpose to that.
Right. And the other thing I was about to ask was about blocking feelings, because I think that's my main issue, and you sort of answered that. Is I need to develop some sort of feeling or way to acknowledge that there are feelings.
Yes. Feelings are great. Feelings give you a lot of information. So rather than seeing your feelings as kind of the enemy or something that's overwhelming, look at them as information.
Mm-hmm.
And you can simply label them and thank them, and they'll go on their merry way once you've identified what they are. And you don't have to dive deep into an ocean of feeling. You can start to feel in incremental steps as is comfortable for you. And interestingly, once you allow yourself to do that, you actually realize that you can go much farther, much deeper, much more comfortably than you thought you could.
Mm-hmm. And Joseph, go on YouTube and play a video of a baby laughing. And you'll get to a feeling, I promise you.
All right.
Go to a tearjerker video or listen to music that has moved you in the past. It's not that you're devoid of feelings, it's the environment around you isn't engendering emotions to propped up, and it's time for you to immerse in those things that will provoke that which you're seeking. Be okay to opening to love or to sadness or even to the grief of losing your sight. Did you grieve that? Is that a safety mechanism? Is that something that came up? Okay, I see that there's a gift in it and I'm going to be in that. My mother just passed, and my grief, it hasn't come on perhaps in ways that would be very logical, and maybe I'm processing in dream in other ways, but I trust it, and I know that it'll flow in its divine timing. But there's through the flow and letting go and letting God, if you will, that the different impulses start to arise within us if we try not to control it with a particular outcome in advance and really allow it to show up for us organically.
Yeah.
Right.
Joseph,
Yes.
thank you so much for calling in.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And blessings to you.
Namaste.
Wonderful. All right, next caller, Sonia. Let's go to you now.
Hi, John, and hi,
Hello.
Shelley. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
We can hear you wonderfully, yes.
I just want to, what you just said, John, just now was very powerful for me, just allowing, because I'm very often in my head. And so it's about getting into the heart for me, and learning how to do that more and more. My question is related to material that I've been working on since 2014, and I haven't really got it out there. I say really because there's only like tiny bits of it, because I've been trusting that there's more to evolve and allow it to have a life of its own, as you've said, Shelley, it's got a life of its own, and just trust in that. But I'm wondering how long I should be trusting in that, because it seems to be like infinite and can go on in many different directions, as multidimensional and multi-layered. And also with this shiny object syndrome that I've got, which, and I love listening to John's show, and it's just, I do that on a regular basis. So I'm always wanting to absorb more information and processing it in the way that it needs to be processed. So it's really a question about when do I stop, and how do I get it out into the world, really? And is this the right time to?
I think that
it's more than one question. I apologize.
Well, that's okay, but I have a one-size-fits-all answer. When you work with the divine combination, which is the combination of surrender, faith, flow, and trust. And so if you're surrendered into being of your highest service, you will naturally be starting to work with the flow. So what that means is, if that day is the day that you take action steps to start to get, what you're creating out there more, or to package it up or finish it up or do whatever it is that it needs to be done, you will naturally do that. And you'll be far more efficient with it by working within that model, rather than trying to force yourself to do something that the timing isn't quite right yet. I know a lot of us have a lot of creations that we've been working on, waiting for the new energies. So I know a lot of us are like, oh gosh, like when is it time? When is it time? You'll know it's going to come into your awareness if you're staying in that surrender, faith, flow, trust model. And if you've done that, you're in surrender, faith, flow, and trust for your highest purpose or service, and not one thing happens. And that means that day working on yourself, holding the space, perhaps you are being a space holder or anchor for the planet. You might get asked to help people at a store. If you go to the store, it might just be very simple service, but it takes all the guesswork out of it. And I cannot recommend this enough, because so many of us are in that space of not knowing. This is how you make those discoveries.
Okay, right, lovely, thank you.
You're very
So
welcome.
it's just basically continuing to trust, and I'll know when the time is right and going out. Yeah.
So long as, you know, so long as you're working in that surrender, faith, flow, trust model, you'll know when it's time to make action steps. So it'll come into your awareness in the most miraculous ways. They always find a way of getting your attention, for sure.
They find a way, but sometimes I find that also, Shelley, that there's a fear of letting go. There's a fear that there's more that we need to add. There's a fear that we've missed something. And Sonia, I'm sure you can probably appreciate this, that, well, do I just finally put it out there and maybe I can add to it later or do something different? Or is there another volume that's coming out? It's like, there's the difference. There's that middle point between, I just need to put this out, because I've worked with situations where there were constantly developments and the company went bankrupt because they kept trying to perfect. I put out Beyond the Ordinary show with 3 months leeway. It could have taken me 8 months to build it and create the pretty site and the perfect funnels and everything else. But it took me 3 months instead of 8 months. And the timing was so beautiful and perfect for me. So what's that middle ground of knowing? What's the guidance on that?
Well, I think that, you know, asking, you know, giving it a consciousness and asking it what it needs. But your inner wise one always knows. It always knows. And so if you're, you know, and I know that it sounds so vague. I know surrender, faith, flow, and trust sounds super vague. I get that. But it really is the operating system of the new energies. That's how we do it. We make our highest choice, one right now moment at a time, because it is in the not knowing that the greatest expansion occurs.
Yeah.
And
we
we're
can't
just
force
getting
things.
used to that.
Right now, we can't force things. I've had projects I've been waiting a year to come out. A year, it's like, and I know I just have to, it's like, it's not time. It's like, okay, I'm surrendering to the divine flow. Let go and let God.
But I'm just hearing from Gabriel right now, very interestingly, he's almost, and I've never heard this before. You know, I believe that we choose our own birthdays. I believe that our packages and our creations do as well. So sometimes it might be a case where it's just waiting to be born in certain energetics on a certain day with certain traits. Isn't that interesting?
Interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Sonia, something I'd recommend for you, and anybody stuck in limbo, if you will, or in that void space of not knowing, start just automatic writing. Like sit down in a daily practice and just allow the energy to release. And with automatic writing, don't come up with an agenda, just write what's top of mind. And if you don't know what's right, just write, I don't know what's right. I don't know what's right. And let the energy move through you. And you'll be surprised at the pockets of wisdom and guidance that show through in that. Try that for a week and see what comes up for you. I'd say try for like 30 days and see what comes up for you. Or try that for a week straight, 3 pages front and back without stopping, and see what relaxes as you dump energy onto the paper and the wisdom that emanates for that. I think it may be really helpful for you.
Thank you. Is there a better time to do that, like morning or evening for the
Whenever it feels
automatic?
right for you. No, whenever it feels right for you. Yeah.
Okay, I'll try that. Thank you very much.
All right,
Thank you
Sonia,
both of you.
Yeah, so good. I love playing with you. All right, let's go to the next caller. Jessica, welcome.
Hello, how are you guys?
Doing wonderful. How are you? Well, actually, what's your question for Shelley?
Yeah, so my question is kind of specific about Archangel Gabriel. And so without asking you to, you know, give anything away that's in your gift or your offer, I'm really curious, like a short Cliff's Notes. Everything you're saying is relevant to me. If I'd met you 10 or 20 years ago, it would have been fabulous because I've had to do all this work and come to all these conclusions. Like, through my experiences with my family and my relationships. And I really appreciate what you were saying about essentially separation is an illusion, because you know, that's for me where I've been working with my family. And so my question is, have you seen any significant pattern when you've been working with people who've had our similar experiences, where, like, for me, I've had such a deep relationship with Archangel Raphael, and along this path, I've been having all these messages from Gabriel, the very important messages, and taking note of them. And I'm wondering if that has to do with my collective identity. I've largely been in that collective identity for most of my life, instead of having an individual experience and seeking my individual ego goals. I wonder if you can speak to, does that have anything to do with, once you kind of come to this space where that energetic connection that can't be ignored is neutralized, that Gabriel has a specific place as a, you know, I'm a creative person, I'm a bard, if you will, where before it was just about healing.
Mhm.
Is that a clear question? I hope it is.
Yeah, I think that so many, have I noticed a pattern? Yes, I've noticed a huge pattern in the fact that so many people who are on the planet as empaths who are ascending, you know, came from these really challenging places. And what it taught us was, you know, we created these really tough starting points that were springboards to move forward into our highest life expression. It kept our energetic sensitivities very high, where if we would have had a very safe environment, we probably would have allowed them to just kind of drop away. So to me, I think that we chose, those of us that are on the planet, to assist with the shift, which is basically everybody. we chose to come in to these really challenging places to activate the path, if that makes sense. And so you've activated the path so well in this healing journey that you've gone through, which has all been divinely perfectly timed. And now you're trying to experience yourself as this individuated aspect of your highest consciousness embodied, which is brilliant timing when you think of the energies that we're in right now. So you, to me, are the epitome of somebody who has shifted out of that first phase of your incarnation. Now, what do you want to create? Now, are you going to let your beingness lead the way? Because that's all that's necessary. I think that very much you're part of that collective. I think that you've played with the angelics and all of those energies for millennia. And so that's kind of your support team while you're part of the ground crew. So what are you going to create? What brings you joy moving forward? Because really that's what it all boils down to, your beingness. Everything that you've done so far has led you to the knowingness of your beingness, to allow that to lead the way. And you get to choose now. And that's amazing. There's no more to-do list for you. And that's what's disorienting. We lose the to-do list and we're like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? Whatever feels good. Whatever is your highest expression of self, right?
I love not having the list. And it's great that John said clean slate year, because this year on my vision board, I put a prayer I'd written to Archangel Gabriel like 10 years ago on my vision board. And I thought, that's really interesting. And I inherited a Gabriel statue from my dad's mother when she died, kind of by accident. And so I think you're right. I think it's about the clarity of the not having to do, but I'm just so passionate. I have like accumulated work for 20 years that I'm ready to put out. And so I just want to serve, other people as well, whilst also finally being a little selfish with, I guess, what you're calling joy. So thank you for answering my question. I appreciate it.
It's about being the unconditional love and receiving the unconditional love. It's about spreading it liberally. I mean, when we really think it through, I mean, we just can't move into unconditional love and unity consciousness except us. because it's just not it, you know? So I think for many of us, as we're kind of evolving beyond these old ways, we're actually anchoring and creating new foundations for other people to learn how to do that as well. And we're kind of tamping down the path through the forest so that, you know, the next waves that come behind us will have like a better, you know, templates of how that looks and how it's achievable. So it's so many layers of service to all of it.
Well, you just
So
answered my
wonderful.
question about what to work on next. So thank you.
Okay.
Well, I want to give you something to work on next also, and let's work on it now. Now, so you said you're going to be a little selfish. How did that feel like in your body?
It finally feels good to say that. It's a little
Awesome.
foreign, but it
Yeah.
feels good. Yeah.
So try this one on. I'm going to be a lot selfish.
I'm going to be a lot selfish.
How does that feel to you?
Yeah, a little dizzy.
Yeah.
I'll walk around the block with that one tonight.
Practice with that one, but really feel as you do that, really feel in the benevolence that you carry with it, your foundation of love. And from that, wouldn't you want your best friend, your parents, your loved one, whoever it is that you love in your life, to experience that much joy, that much pleasure, that much love in their lives? Wouldn't you want to gift that to them? That they were so unselfish that they had the capacity to receive in that way.
Absolutely.
You give it to them in a heartbeat.
I think my favorite thing that Shelley said tonight is about really wanting people to reach their own spiritual potential, and like giving them the opportunity to do that is love, is
So
joy.
Can you do that for yourself?
Yes.
So are you willing? And I'm not going to let you sidetrack me on this and then really put you on the hot seat. Really focus on you being just hugely selfish in this regard. Invite it in, because as you're able to receive it, that means you can hold in the capacity where others can feel that receiving from within you and go, wait, there's a safety there. I can do it. I'm not asking for too much. I'm not wrong. I'm not being selfish in the way that I've been taught selfish is. No.
Yeah.
This is the time of the emerging leaders and what we're doing in merging our spirituality and personal development. And if you're leading from this space in which you're claiming that you want to be of service, you have to own your shit.
Yeah.
It's just time. And so be selfish in that, because it's the one who's willing to receive that knows that in receiving, we have more to give to others. It becomes one of the
I'm
most
really
unselfish
taking
acts
that
you can
in.
do. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really taking that in, and I'm really going to practice that. And that means being my most expanded self. And that's scary, but I'm going to practice that.
And
Thank you.
you deserve to receive that.
Yeah.
You deserve to receive that.
John, I love that you brought up safety.
Mm-hmm.
I think that is so important, because really the balance that we're looking for is to create safe attachment with others and safe attachment within ourselves. And that's why it's so important that we're doing this integration work of all of these little wounded fragments and little inner children, and our ego self as well. It's creating that safe attachment, because once we've created that safe attachment within ourselves, we become that space holder, that safe person for everybody else. And our service becomes so much more beautiful and so much more empowering for everybody involved. And then it just becomes joy. It's truly, safety is such a major issue, particularly for people that have grown up in dysfunctional families.
It's funny, Shelley, over about 4 or 5 months ago, I go through these mantras that I say. And when I exercise also, because I want to imprint new neural pathways as I'm exercising also. And the mantras were actually, it's safe to be a success. It's safe to be loved. It's safe to love. And I'd practice I deserve and the others, and which is wonderful. But the safety component came up it came up organically. And we're breaking into new paradigms where it could seem unsafe because we don't know, we haven't seen it before. And to really imprint that it's safe for us to do those things, to receive. It's safe to receive.
Yeah.
Hold on a second. It's huge. Oh, I'm so glad you brought this up. Y'all, this is amazing. Jessica, you're awesome. Blessings to you, and thank you. So good. So Shelley, why are you so excited about this package? And April, if you would type in the link for the special offer in the chat box. It's $97, 2 payment options. This is such a huge conversation. What makes you so excited about this special offer, Shelley?
Oh gosh, just the potentials that it can move us into.
Hmm.
You know, when we finally allow ourselves to be who we are, that's when things get really good.
Yeah.
Because when we are emanating who we really are, we are serving through our beingness, and everything responds back to that. That's where we meet the perfect matches. That's where we start having that life expression that we all know is out there for us, but we just haven't been able to connect to. So as we're dismantling these old habits, this old myth that it's loving to do everything for somebody else, that's not love, that's disempowerment.
Mhm.
Love is empowering each other to be the best, to be everything that we can be. And if we start to do that, my gosh, what's possible moving forward?
Amazing. Oh, so excited. This is so amazing. Y'all take advantage of the special offer. You know where to find the link now. We'll run the replay all week long, so you can get the special offer from there also. Come back and listen to the call. Go back into the process. It's so good. The process I'm going to listen to again, and I may want to share in different ways as well. And again, I'm so excited about this and what's evolving from it. Shelley, thank you
Oh, thank you.
for showing up and creating every time you come on here. It's always yes, yes, yes.
Thank you so much for having me. And thank you, John, for always being there right on time. I swear you and Gabriel are in cahoots because you always show up and like, hey, do you feel like being on? And it's like, okay, what can I create? You know, it's just always so divinely perfect. So thank you so much for being my soul brother and such a beloved part of my soul family. I really appreciate you.
Me too. Thank you too. And all of y'all part of the Soul family as well. And I wish we could have gotten some more Q&A. I promise we'll get into some of y'all, see some of y'all repeatedly, and we'll get to you on other calls also. But I'm so glad that you were on today. Again, this conversation just speaks to me so beautifully. I love y'all. Namaste. And I look forward to seeing you on the next call. Have a great evening. And thank you again, Shelley.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.